Hello, I'm Gerald. Welcome to another episode of Box Office QBs. With me today is my guy Ahmed, and we're taking a little different route of movies because usually we're doing superheroes and nerd shit and a lot of weird anime and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shit. And today we're talking real life stuff with the movie Civil War. Very interesting, a journey across a dystopian future America where it's at war with itself. And you follow a group of journalists throughout this, really the tail end of the war. The war's been going on. It's damn near done, and we're here to catch the ride of it. And Ahmed, just what are your first thoughts, and how are you doing?
I'm good. First thoughts, it was haunting, you know? I mean, you got to understand I'm watching this from a journalistic lens and, what a time to be a journalist, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
and I mean, we when I started, El Paso and Midland happened, so it was like Jesus Christ. And of course, so seeing it that way, it
And
was
we
just
went
very
through
haunting.
COVID, and we went through
We went through
all
COVID.
the protests. I mean, San Antonio.
Yeah,
We were in San Antonio at the time, and that was no San Antonio was no stranger to the protests either, or any of the COVID situations or the presidential elections, and
yeah.
just all that stuff. And even that, like, obviously, I'm not in journalism anymore, but you are, and you're still going through a lot of quite a bit of news cycles every week or so.
Yeah,
So
no, and it's wild as
seeing it
hell.
through that lens has to be insane, because I did go with a group of friends and they were all journalists too, and I saw it with them. And and being a former journalist myself, seeing it through that view is kind of why I think we our show is really in a special place to talk about this, right? Because
Yeah,
it was a it's a being a dystopian future. I mean, we've seen these movies, right? We've seen these shows. We've seen The Walking Dead. We've seen The Last of Us. Fallout now is another one. We've seen the movies where our world is damn near at the end or at its wits end, um, and this one, I think A24 really found a way. A24 and excuse me, Alex Garland really found a way to portray a world that is, while a crazy scenario to think about, one that is very rooted in realism. So much so that in the opening sequence, they're using clips from some of the protests of the past several years.
right. And I mean, we're seeing, in that one scene where a journalist is getting hit. One of my very, very good friends, he was hit by a firecracker covering the protests, and he still has a gash on his leg, you know, and he was live on the air when that firecracker hit him, and his girlfriend was the news anchor, you know,
Okay.
and it's like they're both very professional, and she's like, Jason, are you okay? And it's like, that's that's your significant other, you know what I mean? um it's tough, and like, you know obviously I have not seen crazy stuff on the front lines, but I have read a lot of documents, I've seen pictures, we've seen videos, we've also listened to police and fire scanners, so we're very jaded. I think we've become desensitized, and so,
And I think Kristen Dunst really showed that well.
oh, captured it perfectly.
I
Even
think
Wagner
she did
Moura.
because, I mean, even and I have no place to really speak in war journalism terms. I've never been a
Right.
war journalist, but I can tell you that, like, I have seen bodies. My first weekend on the job in as an MMJ in Midland, Texas, I went to a scene and got there before the cops did, and
Yeah.
there was a body. And that was the first time I knew that. And like, that was not the first or the last. That was the first, but it was not the last. Um,
Right.
so like you do, and after a while you become desensitized to these things, and I believe Kristen Dunst really did, and capture that really well. Stephen McKinley as well came off, like he was somebody who had some years in journalism, I think. Now I think he was a little too ballsy for his age. He probably shouldn't have been going out to Charleston at
Well,
all.
hold
But
on. Hold on, Gerald. You remember, uh, Randy? Randy Beamer, he didn't have any security during the protests. Nobody told him to go out there, and he just was going out there,
A lot
and
of people were,
yeah, he just was like recording on his phone, and some
but
kids smashed a building. And he's just like, "Hey, what'd you do that for?" Kind of thing.
yeah,
But
yeah, I
no,
remember that.
but like you said, Kirsten Dunst really captured that well. I also thought that Wagner Moura captured the essence of how this job can become so like a drug, where you feed off the adrenaline, and that is something that like I've been able to hit the ground running again. I took an 8 month hiatus, as you know. The viewers don't know, but I did, and so to kind of have that desensitization is a word I just coined, but to just have that. There were many, many moments in the movie where I'm watching a photograph get taken, and it's very tragic scene, but I'm seeing this picture, and the first thought was, "Wow, that's a really good shot." And that's just kind of like it's supposed to be tragic, but that's just how it's become. Like, ooh, that's a perfect shot. Or they're looking at some of the gruesome pictures, and like, that one's not good. It's like, yeah, that looks like shit. That was the first thought that came to my mind. We've been in so many instances where like I've seen some like a body hanging, and you're just like, oh my god, that's not live, right? Not, oh shit, I'm seeing a dead body. We don't have that on the air, correct? We're okay? Great. On to the next story.
Yeah,
So yeah, haunting.
yeah, no, definitely some haunting stuff. And with this movie, it doesn't hold back at all. I do think the journalists get a little too much freedom in here. I think they get a little Hollywood freedom.
Mm-hmm.
There are points in the movie where, so it is what it is. What it is, it is a road trip because you have a dystopian movie about America being torn apart in civil war with each other. You kind of have to show America, so they have to travel a decent part of America to get from, I believe it's like what, New York to DC,
Yeah.
and they go through and they have to few stops, and each stop is a little more like, oh no, how are they going to get out of it? And each one of those stops are good. They're entertaining. They're suspenseful for sure. I mean, people die in them, so that's pretty insane. Um,
Well, yeah, and like what was one of the gripes I had with the film was it was hard to kind of figure out, okay, who's against who? Which side are we supposed to root for? Which side is the one where like that's a safe place? Because you're right, they have some journalistic freedom, and towards the end, it's like they're protected. So it's like, okay, who's the one that's like okay with journalists? Who's the group that's not okay
well,
with
they made it pretty
journalists?
clear that like DC doesn't want, like, what is now original America does not like journalists anymore. Because in DC they get shot on sight allegedly. But so it sounds like the Western Front does, which the Western Front is supposed to be an
Texas and
ambiguous.
California.
Yeah, it's Texas and California, but like it's ambiguous as to, like, they don't talk about its political leanings at all. So like if you're looking in this movie, like, I don't want to see it because it's political. Like, it really doesn't talk political.
The
The only
only
political
political,
stuff it
yeah,
really talks about is that the president has apparently killed people.
and
Not
he's
specifically
taken
how.
he's
Third
appointed
term.
himself a third term. Yeah.
Yeah, and he appointed himself a third term. So, like, other than that, it doesn't talk about the politics. And I think the director told a journalist this. I read this somewhere, that the director did this on purpose because their relationship is so opposite and so different. You put them together and make them a team. You don't really, you really can't say which side is which.
Yeah.
I think he
It's
didn't say it exactly like that, but I think that's
are you
something
saying
around those
extremist
lines.
politics would always remain more important than a president of this sort? That sounds crazy to me.
But I think with this movie, it definitely plays that well. Like I said, the journalists get a little too much freedom. There's scenes where they're like in the war zone, and like the people. And what I like about this movie is that it doesn't mince it straight up shows the fact that like this is a civil war in your backyard. Like, people are coming in their Hawaiian shirts that they wear to like go on cruises with like Kevlar over it and stuff. and they're at
Yeah.
war because they were just like that's what they were doing, and they were hanging out or they were at home. That's what they had. They don't have uniforms all the
Mhm.
time, and but they're like these people are like on a wall like shooting and stuff, and the journalists are like on them, and I again I can't speak to what a war journalist actually goes through or gets to see. That just seems a little too much freedom. Like you're telling me those guys that are shooting at them are like discerning between those guys' random helmet assortment and the very bland press helmet that they had on whenever he's just shooting in the war
Yeah.
zone.
N-
And then like when
n-
they're pushing on DC, they're like right up against the tanks.
Yeah, no, see, and that's the thing is like, again, I also don't know what that's like, but I am fortunate to know people that have been that way. Um, I'm gonna do a little shout out to one of my heroes, Yoan Grillo, the author of Blood Gun Money. This guy has interviewed. He's covered like the drug cartels, narcos for decades. And in this book, and even in the interview, he tells me a story about how he was at a jail, and these prisoners had Uzis wrapped around their necks like necklaces, like the chain. They had Uzis, and they are in prison. And so there was an incident in the prison where things were about to get heated, and he asked, "Hey, so what are we supposed to do if they start shooting at each other? What are we supposed to do?" It's like, "Oh, we can hide under a mattress."
Good.
Right, right, exactly. So there's no
That sounds
protection.
good.
There's so the fact that like they're being escorted, they're like, "Hey, follow me," blah blah blah. Like I'd like to think that that wouldn't really happen, because for someone in the military, not me, but for somebody in the military, I would imagine they don't have time to be babysitting you. They're too busy trying to save their fellow soldier and most importantly themselves. So fuck you, get the
Right.
hell out of my way.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure. Okay, so let's talk about the president, Nick Offerman. What were your thoughts?
he was a very ambiguous president. So I thought that was good that like it didn't focus too much on his policy, but it does kind of show the effect on like, okay, we all just don't like a certain person, so we're all going to war. And we didn't really get a chance to get to know him too well, which I guess was maybe done on purpose. But I did like the ending. And once we go into spoiler territory, let's talk about that.
Go ahead. I think we're nearing the end here, so let's talk about your favorite part, and if it's the ending, let's hear it.
I had a lot of favorite scenes. I really liked that scene where Jesse uh, wakes up in that pile of bodies, and that bird's eye view I thought was an incredible shot. But it's also like if you really needed a view of the horrors of war, this is it, you know. But I also loved that ending where they were they got the story because
Yeah, I mean,
with
did they
with
have
it.
this tour?
But
Go
hold
ahead.
on, no, with that scene where the New York Times writer is killed, and they're kind of like, he's dead, so we missed the story, and he died for nothing. We're like, ooh, yeah, what's worse, you missing the story or this guy dying for nothing? And the fact that I thought that that was a problem was enough for me to go, yeah, something's fucking wrong with me. But they still needed to get the story. They still needed to get the quote. And I thought that was a great way. Like, hey, I need a statement. And his last words were, "Don't let them kill me." There's nothing he can do about it. As a journalist, there's nothing he can do about it. And I don't like the writing a little bit, but I loved that that was the ending.
I just some things felt like they weren't finished. It felt
Of
like they
course,
were. It felt like they had a few more days of filming, and then somebody said, "Nah, we're good. You don't need to wrap up everything," and
right.
just kind of walked off. I would have liked to hear what the fucking like what he ended up putting out there and like seeing what they put out there and shit. I don't know. And like I mean, I got what they were doing with Nick Offerman's president and making him like ambiguous. Like, yeah, like where he's just the asshole we hate. He doesn't like. You don't ask why. Don't need to know why. We just fucking hate him. We hate him enough for California and Texas to like each other, so we hate him that much. And so he was cool with the, all that shit was cool. It just didn't feel finished at all. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, I
Um,
agree because it seemed like when the what's his name, the New York Times journalist, Jerry, Stephen, Sammy,
Stephen
God
McKinley.
damn it, yeah, Stephen McKinney, great character. Um, when he died, it was a very integral part of the story. When Kirsten Dunst dies, literally saving Jesse's dumbass,
It just kind of
it
happens,
just
right?
happens. It just happens. They're like, oh, moving on. You know what I mean? It was
And
really
then like the
stupid.
movie just ends like
Just
shortly after
yeah,
that. That's what I'm saying. There's no like what the fuck happened. We don't even know if she for real dies, you know? Like for
right.
all we
Because
know, like they could
wasn't
have
she
saved
wearing
her.
Kevlar?
I thought I mean she should have been. She was out there. Now, granted, like I think she got shot in the head,
Mm.
but she was wearing Kevlar. But Kevlar only protects like it's like a fucking t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. So
and it's
if
like
she
it has
got
like a strap up here, so she could still get like right here or something like that.
yeah, but
Um,
no, this is the fact that it just ended so abruptly.
yeah,
That was
that's what I'm saying.
very
I was just like,
uh,
there's no real ending to this, huh?
no,
Okay, I guess we're
and
just that's how we're doing this.
and so I wonder if that was the point. Is like, okay, they got the story, they got the story, they got the quote. That's it. But I'm still kind of like, no, that's not how journalists do. Somebody's got to read the fucking story. Who gets to edit the story? Who gets to hear that story? And how is it received?
I mean, I guess we don't need all that. I just kind of want to know what the hell happened with Kristen Dunst in that whole situation. But let's
Yeah.
get to final rankings because this movie deserves a final ranking of a starter for me. It's
Oh,
good.
starter?
It's got good editing. It's got decent pacing. It's got good suspense, and like it looks really good. Honestly, I saw it in IMAX. I didn't need to see it in IMAX. The audio was
Mm.
great though in IMAX. I'll say this: like the gunfire, everything was intense. I like the gunfights and stuff. The U.S. military was getting his ass beat by a bunch of schmucks who probably have like a point 0.8 KD in Call of Duty, but they were getting their ass beat. So I mean, goddamn, we don't know what the hell happened there. Um, Pretty good movie. I'm not mad that I spent the money to see it, but after seeing it, knowing I could have waited for like a Regal $4 night, or like even for it to go to streaming, it would have been okay. But still, I think it's something you should watch. Like if you have the time and the money, and maybe it's a cheap night, maybe you don't care about the money. It's yeah, go for it. It's good enough. It doesn't. It's not political. It's funny at times. It's suspenseful, and probably some of the best stuff from Kristen Dunst that I've liked for my part. What about you, Ahmed?
No, I agree. I think it's the best work that Kirsten Dunst has done since Interview with a Vampire when she was a child actress. And if you all haven't seen Interview with a Vampire, do watch it. She does such a great job in that movie. Um, my rankings are all star. I also saw it in IMAX. I would have liked to see it in Dolby just because the picture probably would have been better. But you're right, the sound was perfect. There were many instances where I was kind of reminded of how I felt when I watched Oppenheimer. But this movie is nowhere near the same kind of ranking as Oppenheimer because
It's not.
Oppenheimer had everything. It had good writing, it had good storytelling, it had really good visuals. Whereas this one had visuals, but I think it lacked in a little bit of the storytelling. Um,
I think Oppenheimer had way less visuals than you give it credit for. A lot of Oppenheimer was guys sitting in a room talking. There was like one
no,
big
no,
explosion
no.
scene. Let's
Oh
be real.
no, 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 no,
Like
no, no, no. That's where you're wrong, my
comparatively, there
friend.
is a lot more action in this movie.
Yes, there is a lot more action, but visually, I
comparatively.
think it's no. You
Visually,
don't know what
there's a
you're
lot of
talking
good
about.
shots, but there's a lot of guys in room shots too. There's a lot of guys in room shots.
I'm thinking of the scene where he was really excited, and then he sees like the little kids' faces and people's faces melting from the atomic warfare.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that was crazy. But I'm talking about like action scenes. There's, I don't know, and then like there were some pretty good shots in this film,
oh, some
really
amazing
beautiful shots.
shots.
So
I
like,
think
it was definitely a good watch. So yeah, I think a high starter. It's a solid starter. Like it's not a low. Like it's a good 3.8 movie out of 5.
yeah, I'm only giving it. I would have given it a starter as well, but I think this one definitely deserved a little bit more, just because, in my opinion, just because they really put a lot of effort in the acting. I mean, the fact that Kirsten Dunst plays a really good jaded journalist who's seen so much, and the visuals in that were just spellbinding. And of course, Wagner Moura, you know, I love Wagner Moura, man. That guy, ever since Narcos, he just kills every role. He was in Mr. and Mrs. Smith as well, which Jeff and I talked about in another episode. If you haven't seen that review, go check it out. He has a special appearance in that show. I would just watch the movie again just to see Wagner Moura. He plays a great, like, we all know this journalist that just really thrives really really thrives on the adrenaline, like the drug addiction of the news, where but then of course shit gets real sometimes, you know.
Hey, we all got a breaking point.
We all have a breaking point, and
That
so
man lost it.
yeah, and I loved his portrayal of that. Just it was
Hmm.
just beautiful.
Yep. But anything else?
You know, before today I also recorded Monkey Man and with Jeff. And I told Jeff about how I thought it was amazing that, you know, you have Jordan Peele working with Dev Patel. And I liked that this movie, Civil War, kind of has this generational um, look at journalists. You've got, the hotshot reporter that is Wagner Moura. You have the jaded photojournalist. Like, I've seen so much shit, whatever. And then you have the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Jesse. But then you also have the veteran journalist who's like, "This is all I know. I'm not retiring. I will die doing this job." I thought that was perfect, but really, it was just a story of coming together, and I think we really, really need that more than ever. Fuck politics. Fuck creeds, um, loyalty, fuck all that. Just like be kind to people, and that's one thing that journalists also find out when they enter this business is this is a really small business, so be nice to everybody. And if we as journalists in a competitive industry can be kind to each other, I think ordinary fucking citizens can be nice to each other too. Like, somebody cut you off, okay, fine, big fucking deal.
Everybody
Someone,
love everybody.
huh?
Everybody love everybody.
Everybody love everybody, Like, my cat has been annoying the shit out of me this entire episode. But God damn it, this is my baby, and I love her.
Good.
Yeah.
He loves you
See?
too.
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah. But
Awesome.
that also that scene where he says, "What kind of American?" I was ready for that scene.
Jesse Plemons did a pretty good job for that one. So
Oh yes, he
he,
did,
he
because I
stole he
hated him,
stole he stole the scene.
and he doesn't get that much screen time. But oh, he's that is an award worthy,
Yeah.
you
That
know,
that scene is worth seeing the movie for. I will say that.
for sure. And just that alone, what kind of American are you? Like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing else that can say it. Like, that can capture where we've come, in our society. Gerald, you and I are U.S. citizens. We were both born
Mhm.
in this country, but we don't look American, I guess, by
I look white
American
as
standards.
hell.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Let's
But
wrap
yeah,
it up. But as Ahmed
that's
said, we
all.
are having Monkey Man reviews come out soon. We might be doing Kaiju number 8, a new anime on Crunchyroll. We're thinking about doing Go Go Loser Rangers because that looks funny as hell. There's also a few other movies and shows will be popping out. Fallout is another one will be popping out. So we're popping out a lot of reviews over the next few weeks. Make sure you stay tuned. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, social media, all of them. Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called now. Do it. Um, Go see this movie as well and rewatch this review afterwards and tell us what you think. And have a good night. See you.